Welcome everyone to Gotham City Bulletin. As always, I am Subject, and I have Noah here with us. We are talking about the Court of Owls. You're not going to be able to see that very well, but there it
It's clear
is.
enough. There it is. Yeah.
Um, I haven't read this in a long time. Have you ever read this?
This is only my second time, but yeah, I haven't read it in a long time either.
Okay, so we'll get into the meat of it, but I just want to ask, did this hold up for you?
Mostly, yeah. I actually liked it more on this reading, just because from memory, I liked the overall story, as a package, but I always thought that Court of Owls, the first half, was way stronger than City of Owls, which is technically that's collected in, on its own, but nowadays they're collected together. Um, I liked it more altogether as a package on this viewing or this reading rather.
Interesting, because see, I first read this, I liked it all the way through. Reading it now,
Mhm.
I have the original reaction, which is I really like Court of Owls, and then you get to City of Owls, which I'm assuming because they don't separate it in this trade that we read. It should be noted that Noah and I read from the same trade, which is the Essential Edition, which was a godsend.
Yes.
I'm assuming City of Owls starts right after the maze.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's around when he gets back to the Bat Cave is when that
Yeah,
starts.
I think that's when the book falls apart because the Court of Owls turned from this mysterious organization to now we're just waging war on Gotham like every other villain you've ever seen.
Yeah, I'd still say it's the weaker half of the story, but altogether as one, I appreciated it more.
And I wonder if I would like this more if I read it with the tie-ins because we did not read any of the
Night of the
tie-ins.
Owls, or well, yeah, where it's like focuses on the Bat family,
Yeah, because each Bat book had like a tie-in issue for this whole thing. Once you get to
Mhm.
City of Owls,
Which is weird to think about because the next Snyder story is also an event. Like you get
no,
tie-ins for
all of his
Death of the Family.
storylines are events.
Yeah, yeah.
He has like maybe one or two issues that are standalone, but
Mhm.
89%, 95%, let's say, of his run is just event and then another event and then another event and then another event and then another event.
Some of them more necessary than others.
At least up until I don't know what happens after he like replaces Bruce with Jim Gordon. Um,
Yeah, I haven't read any of that stuff.
I saw that bat soon. I was like, I don't care.
We'll cover it
uh,
eventually, but that's not what we're
so
talking
I
about
like that
tonight.
this book starts with kind of an open narration that is what the book is about thematically. You know, what is Gotham? And you get to see some
Yes.
of the villains. Some of them look better than others. Good old New 52 designs. Um,
Yeah,
did you
we
have
got
that?
rid of that Riddler. We got rid of that Riddler design real fast.
Yeah. Did you have that? Like, it feels like I'm reading a DC book from another company. Going back to this, we're so far removed from New 52 now.
Not really. I did have an interesting experience with it though, like recognizing more that it is New 52 because this was one of the first Batman comics I ever read. I don't remember if it is the first, but it's a lot of like the go-to like all right, start with year 1 or Court of Owls. Um uh and I think it's reading it again, it still holds up as like a first read for new Batman fans, I'd say. But
I'd say
as
it's
far
better
as
than Hush for a first book.
yeah, and I mean Hush isn't bad as a first one, but like this is a better story than Hush. But yeah, I mean, as it being like this is Batman from a different company. No, not really. I didn't really get that vibe.
Okay. Because I felt like this was a completely different, like, this feels like a different company than, like, modern day DC or Rebirth DC, where they don't care about as much now about continuity. And you could argue that New 52 didn't, but, like, they tried, even though, like, it's really
Yeah.
awkward because. So you have this Batman that has all of his Robins, at least the main ones. They got rid of the ones
Yes.
that nobody knows, like Stephanie Brown and There's no more Cassandra Cain, but he's got Dick, he's got Jason, he's got Tim, he's got Damien, and he's got Barbara as Batgirl. Did you have this? Him and Dick look the same age.
No, I didn't think that Bruce and Dick looked the same age, but I thought that the brief moment that we see Tim and Damien, they kind of looked very close in age, and this goes into the whole weird thing of the New 52 retconning how Batman's entire history happened in 5 years. So it's like you have to. I guess it makes sense in that context to kind of put their ages closer together.
Okay. He's
But
a little shorter than Bruce, but
he
you
looks
cannot tell me
younger.
there is a huge difference between them.
I don't think there's a huge difference between them, but I think what it is the Robins kind of look like Bruce's younger siblings. Like,
Yeah, that's exactly it. It looks like an older sibling
yeah,
babysitting his younger siblings.
yeah,
And
like
Tim, this is
Dick just
Tim's
looks like
only
his younger
appearance in
brother.
this book, by the way.
Yeah, he's got a short little thing right there. I don't even know if he shows up because there's a extra issue at the end where like Alfred, like you see all the like what the Bat family are doing during the Night of the Owls, but
I
I
think the
don't think
only
you even
one because
see.
they each get a spin-off issue. So I think the
Yeah,
only one that he's in is probably the Teen Titans book, which was another big
probably.
issue. Is if a character didn't have a solo book like Nightwing or Batgirl, whatever book they were in would just be like disrupted by whatever event Snyder was doing. So like if you're
Uh,
writing Teen Titans, now you have to do a Tim issue
yeah,
for Night of the City of Owls. I
yeah,
think. Let
that
me
that
fact
must
check
be
that.
annoying for people reading Teen Titans at the time.
Nobody was because everybody hated that book.
Okay. Yeah, most of my experience with the New 52 is with Batman, which has been pretty solid. And
uh,
that's the one book I hear any good things about from the New 52.
so this is a kind of fresh start for Batman. You know, he's talking about like what is Gotham. You get like Killer
Mhm.
Croc and Freeze, Black Mask, and then you get Joker. And you have this really weird moment where Joker starts working with Batman.
Or is it Joker?
Well, thanks for spoiling it. No, or is it Joker? And then you find out it's Dick. And I thought that was cool, kind of keeping that master disguise stuff. Even if it's not Bruce, it's Dick.
Did you have this though? I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and look at it, but what was the point of Dick getting disguised as Joker?
He mentioned it. He's the one that alerted Bruce to the break-in, that a break-in was going to happen.
Okay. So he was already undercover in Arkham.
Yeah.
Okay.
Although
All right. Yeah,
I'm
I was
not
a little
up to date
confused
with
by
the
that.
new 52 Nightwing. Why isn't he in Bloodhaven? Like it seems
Yeah,
like he's
I
just a
don't know.
Gotham resident.
Yeah, he's
How do you
just
feel
being
about the
in the
red?
Batcave a lot in this story. Um, I don't love the red. I don't hate it, but I strongly prefer blue.
I prefer the
That's
blue,
just
but I don't hate the red.
I don't dislike it. It's just if I have to see Nightwing in anything, I'd prefer him to be wearing blue.
Mm. It's such an arbitrary like choice, right? Like, well, it's a
Yeah,
reboot. What are we gonna do? What if we made him red?
yeah, it just seems different for different sake. But
And then I don't know if you had this, but there's that one panel where Joker or Dick as Joker is like sitting next to Bruce and they're just having a casual conversation, and Joker's in
that
like
was
a
weird.
suit. And it's very uncanny valley. I was like, I don't like this.
No, when I first read this, I was like, "What is going on? Why is
Because
he? Why is he in the Batcave?
this,
What's that?"
I have read this before, but in many ways, this was like a first reading, just because.
What do you think of the whole I am Gotham? What is
No,
Gotham?
no, no.
We're not talking about that yet. What is Gotham as like a thematic element and just like a way to introduce the story here in the first issue.
I think that's very classic Batman. We've never put it in those exact words, but it's the Arkham City thing, right? Like, did Batman create the monsters that kind of occupy Gotham, or was that always what Gotham is? And that that's kind of what this story is trying to talk about, and then
Touches on it a little bit.
it just gives up about halfway through. Was like, now fight.
Well, it comes back to it, but I don't know. It does. There is
But
a
I don't know what
moment
it's
in the
trying to
middle
say
where,
at the end of the day.
yeah, I think we'll talk more about it when we get to the final issue. But I think I have an idea of what it's trying to say. I do agree with you that it gets a little muddled and lost in itself, like in the middle of the arc. But
Well, and
I do
that's an
like,
issue with this whole run. Snyder
right.
famously, like in Endgame, he just his characters stopped like being people and just being mouthpieces for
That's what
his
I've heard.
themes.
Yeah, I've only read up through 0 Year, so I need to get back to it. But I've heard Endgame is it has a big problem with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like. There's one line where he's like, uh, some people say, what is Gotham, and they'll use the villains as an example, or they'll say Two Face, as in, Gotham is, presents itself as a nice city, but there's corruption under. Yeah, there's that double meaning. So I don't know. I think that there's a lot of good setup indicating that Gotham means a lot to different people.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Um I also like that this whole speech is about a new like project that he's working on, to make people's better lives better. Because
Hmm.
again, if you still think that all Batman does is beat up mentally ill people, just read this. Um,
Yeah.
but I like that it has a double purpose. Is he's also installing bat bunkers throughout the whole city.
Hmm.
Um, so I
And
thought that was
that's
a nice like, yeah, it's philanthropy, but you got for
he's
the
using he's using the philanthropy to cover up the bat well, not cover up, but like as a front for the Batman stuff, which I mean he's doing a good thing and continuing Batman, so
yeah. I
it's
don't think it's a
I don't
bad
know.
thing at all. It's just it's I like that little moment. It's very Bruce Wayne. Morrison touches on that a little bit with that Batman Inc. thing that he did around this time.
Mhm.
But I've never been a
Yeah.
fan of Batman Incorporated as an idea. I don't care about like like a whole corporation of Batmen running around.
Yeah.
Which is funny that this never mentions like
Well,
because Batman Inc. is funded by Bruce Wayne.
from what I understand, the whole Batman Inc. stuff when it carried over into New 52, Morrison was basically just doing their own thing with that.
And then that leads to a nice little, Vicky Vale cameo, which is cool. I don't think the comics use her much anymore at all. At least
Yeah.
I can't think of the last time I saw her in a story. And then we get to like the story starts.
Then we get
Bruce,
to Bruce Wayne 2. I mean, Lincoln March.
yes, which I have many questions about when we get there. But we
Yeah.
have, we're introduced to Lincoln March. Does he remind you of Harvey Dent at all? Because I was getting strong. Like this is
I did
supposed to
think
be
about
another
that a little bit.
Harvey, but it also makes you
Yeah.
wonder: is like, what is Batman's relationship with Harvey Dent in this universe?
Yeah, it's never really explained, I guess, is it? Because from what I've read of Snyder, I don't think he's
I don't think he
written
ever
like.
uses Two Face.
Yeah, I think he's probably in the background at the beginning, but like he's not a
Well,
main
he's
villain
one of
or
the
anything.
villains in the Arkham Breakout.
Yeah,
The
in the
only thing I
Arkham
know
breakout.
about
Yeah.
New 52 Two Face is he's in that god awful detective run where he
Oh yeah.
becomes One Face. And then it shifts over to a murder where a guy has been like
Hmm.
crucified with knives. With if I, remind me, I think it's with owls on them.
Yeah, they have the owl, the court of owls, like indentation on them.
One thing I will say I appreciated about this book, having not having read it in, I want to say kind of a vacuum of what was happening right before New 52 ended. Or New 52 began. I've only read, I think, like the Black Mirror. This book is gory, but not excessive.
Yeah, no, I was surprised how gory it is. Like when we get to this part, and it's basically a scene right out of Seven, where you see that dead body. Um, but yeah, it's not like excessive about it. It's not on too much of a level, big level.
And then Batman kind of does his detective stuff, which is another thing that's kind of appreciated. I feel like the main Bat book isn't usually about street level detective work. Um,
Yeah,
Most authors will leave that for detective comics. So we get a little bit of that, and it's important to note that this is not Snyder's first Bat book. I know most people kind of associate, but he starts writing Batman in, I think, detective when Dick is still Batman, with the
yeah,
black
because
with like
there's the
Black
Black Mirror,
Mirror,
yeah,
yeah,
which I
and
have
I'm
yet
sure
to
there's other
read.
stories. I remember it being pretty good. I like Dick as Batman, and funnily enough, I just saw that the new status quo for Nightwing is that Dick has gone missing or is like undercover, so Bruce has to become Nightwing.
Oh, weird. Okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
We'll see how that
um,
goes. You're gonna have a very serious and pissed off Nightwing.
yeah, but we meet Harvey Bullock in this scene. Uh,
Yeah, it's very classic Harvey.
Except
Uh,
he seems to like Batman a little bit more than he does usually, but
well,
it's fine.
he is very kind of, I think, chilled a little. Because he's not really, even with the police officers, he's just kind of mild mannered. Like, I'm gruff detective man.
Yeah. No, I always like seeing Harvey Bullock and things. He's great.
Yeah, and we got a super young Gordon in this book.
Oh yeah, they aged down Gordon as well as a lot of other characters in this.
Which I also have questions for, because if he's super young, let's say what, maybe 40s?
Yeah, probably that.
Like, how old was he when he had Barbara?
Just, I don't know. That depends on, well, how old is Barbara? She's supposed to be like a college age
Well,
in
I'd have to
this.
assume he's out of college because I don't think New 52 Dick Grayson's in college either, and they're usually about the same age, right?
Yeah, I guess is well. I never read. Is it? It's the Gail Simone Batgirl run. That's the new 52, right?
Yeah, and I would love to reread that. I haven't for a while. That was also another one of those books that was great
Yeah.
until she left.
Yeah, I didn't know if that had the status quo of her being in college or not, but I'll have to
And
read
then
that.
the big like oh my god moment from the crime is Dick Grayson's DNA is at the scene,
Yes.
which we resolve. I think it's either a couple pages later or like an issue later, and
It's
I
in
almost
the
think it's
very
too
next issue.
easy.
Yeah.
I think it's almost too easy. Like you just happen to run into the guy and he like clawed your skin off, and that's why your DNA was there.
Yeah, it read to me as a very cheap cliffhanger for the first issue because and I had gotten to that and I'm like, all right, this is clearly just meant for shock value, and yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's disappointing. But I do like that as much as this is a Batman story and they tie it to, oh, I as a kid Bruce, was looking for someone to blame for his parents' death, so he went
Yes,
after the court, which is I think is a cool idea, because they don't just come out and say, yeah, the court did it. It's no, the court didn't do it, but this kid was looking for someone to blame. But
he
I
was
like that
looking
it
for
ties into
answers. Yeah,
Dick as well, uh, with him being scouted for the Talons,
for the
basically,
Talon. Yeah.
which is obviously very retroactive, but it worked for me. How did you feel about that?
No, I was fine with it. I think there's maybe some forced conflicts between Dick and Bruce in this. I don't know. I think it's maybe later when he knocks his tooth out. I understand why he did it, but it's like, okay.
Yeah, but
Um,
not that became a meme, so I'm okay with it.
yeah, I mean, there's
And it
nothing
is a
like a
really
Batman.
funny image. Funny image. Like just
Yeah, I
without
mean,
warning, he backhands him.
the image of Batman hitting Robin will always be a meme. So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I mean, we'll get to that scene when we get to it. But yeah, the idea of him being scouted out as a Talon kind of makes sense because he was in a circus and he's very athletic. So yeah, I think it works.
Yeah. No, I don't have any problems with it. We get a Mayor Hill reference too, which I thought was interesting because we were just what video was it where we were talking about Mayor? Oh, it was the Telltale. We were talking about Mayor Hill.
Yeah. Yep.
He exists for 2 seconds in the New 52.
Yep. We get a mention. That's it.
Uh, I like that. Okay, so how do you feel about this? Do you think it was overdone? Do you think it's a good idea overdone or just a good idea? One of the other things that this book will not shut up about is that the owls are natural predators to bats. And I mean, they
I
will not shut up about it.
I like that idea. I think the aspect of not shutting up about it is maybe just a problem with Snyder's writing in general because this is a very wordy book. Like there's a lot of internal which
Monologue.
monologues, which I'm fine with overall, but there's a few moments in this where I was like, all right, maybe we could have done with less of Batman just monologuing to me. Um, and I think that's a problem that gets worse in his run from what I've heard later. But no, I mean, it just makes sense for Batman to go up against an enemy that is owl themed, and obviously we'll get into that later. It's not a new thing, but with the Court of Owls, they're the natural enemy or the natural predator to bats. So I'm fine with that.
So I don't know if you remember this, but after this book, they were everywhere. Do you
I
think that
remember,
they,
yeah,
and
they're
now like
everywhere.
nobody talks about them? Do you think that's just because of all the shitty adaptations that we've had?
Yeah, it's because they were in Gotham,
Yeah, I
uh,
mean, they were in
and Gotham
Gotham
Knights.
and then Gotham Knights, and neither of those games. Like, I like Gotham Knights. I don't think it's as bad as people say, but it's not
It's
like
got
it
a
lit
bad
the world on
reputation,
fire.
right?
I
I
would
just
actually like to
remember,
see someone tackle this idea again because I think this is a book you could adapt and
yeah.
improve.
Well, and I really like the idea of the court. I think they're a great Batman villain. I really like the idea of the Court of Owls. I know that some people might have an issue with the retconniness of it, but I don't know. The idea of a secret society of corrupt rich people just like controlling the city,
It's a
and it's
perfect
something that,
villain for a rich billionaire that runs around the streets and beats people up.
yeah, and it's a perfect villain for Batman too, as someone who thinks he knows the city
Yeah.
as well as he does,
Well,
and
and
he
I
does never realize that there's this thing under his nose that's just been hiding for so many years he's been active.
and I have a problem calling this retconning because I mean this is a reboot.
Yeah,
Well,
no, yeah,
it's half a
soft reboot.
reboot. So
It's a
like you
soft
can't
reboot.
really say if it's rebooting anything. And I think if you made this like your first movie, then you wouldn't be retconning anything because it's there from the
Yeah.
beginning.
And,
Um,
also, I have to remember too, like Batman's only 5 years into his career too, so it's like
Somehow that
somehow,
motherfucker goes through Robins like every 6 months apparently.
yeah, like no, um, but I think that's still long enough to be working, and he's already confirmed for himself when he was a kid that the Court of Owls doesn't exist. I think it's fine. It makes sense that you wouldn't think that they exist long after that, even if it's just 5 years.
Then we get to I'm kind of going by my notes because I'm a professional unlike some people and I took notes. No,
Yeah.
so I might be missing some gaps because I just wrote down things that I was like, oh, we should talk about this, we should talk about this. But we get
Mhm.
to what I think is my favorite action piece in the story, but I have questions. The would-be assassination of Bruce Wayne.
Oh, at the tower.
Yes. Am I
Yeah.
missing anything from the crime scene and Dick's DNA to the reveal of Dick's why his DNA was there to the tower?
Not really. I mean, I guess I would just add that the guy who was killed was raving to Dick about, oh, they're coming back,
Yes.
and
So
yeah,
we're still kind of building like who are they? You know,
yeah,
the court is kind of a myth at this point,
a myth.
and
And
then
then
we get the assassination.
right before Bruce gets attacked, he's talking to Lincoln, and Lincoln says that, oh, there's something dark coming back to the city, and very conveniently, the court shows up, or the Talon shows up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think this is the best action scene because it's just a small like one-on-one fight, but also
Mhm.
like how does Bruce explain his martial arts? And I know it's going to come back to bite him later, but it's like I don't know if I'd buy Bruce Wayne, even a reboot Bruce Wayne being that reckless.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is when you're backed into a corner, like you've got to defend yourself, and yeah, when you have witnesses, people are going to be like, "Oh, how does Bruce Wayne know how to fight like that?" But still, it's like, what is he going to do? Just stand there?
Yeah, he's Batman, just fake being dead. He's
That's
done it
right.
before.
Batman is invincible, as we know.
That's true.
The
No,
Bat God.
and then we get a little bit of backstory with Alan Wayne, and you know the
Yes,
owls coming for him, which is a horrifying backstory. Um,
terrifying.
you know
Yeah.
he's kind of senile, rambling through the streets, and then just somebody pulls him into the sewer, which is not how I'd want to go.
No.
But I like that it connects. You know, it makes this not just personal for Batman who thinks he knows Gotham, but for Bruce Wayne himself, like no, you've affected my family going back to. Isn't Alan Wayne supposed to be like one of the founders of Gotham?
Yeah, he's like they say he built half the city, so yeah, I assume he's a very influential figure in the city.
Yeah, so like the court has been, for
Active
lack of a
for that
better
long.
term, an enemy of the Waynes since the beginning.
Hmm. And I
Um,
like that they never like try to make Joe Chill like a member of the Court of Owls. They never make the Wayne murders like, you know, the court was never responsible for the Wayne's
I'm
murder, which
shocked
I
Gotham
love.
didn't do that.
Yeah, I could see that doing that.
Um, and then we get to kind of the backstory of, Bruce was looking into the Court of Owls because he wanted to blame them for his parents' death. My only question here is I know that Bruce Wayne is a very stubborn person. I also know that Bruce Wayne is a very logical person. I don't know if that I buy that Bruce Wayne would take the results that he found as a 10-year-old as the holy grail of these people absolutely do not exist, especially after he's already seen one.
Oh, I do absolutely.
You think
Um,
so?
yeah, because he came up on a dead end and it just got him trapped in an attic for like over a week. He said so.
Yeah, but he's also a detective
I think
now.
this was I think this was before he, you see that he's driven from a very young age, which is, I think, very in character.
No,
But
I'm not talking about like
I,
the kid version. I'm talking about adult Bruce Wayne as a detective. He's ran into one
okay,
of them already, or someone that looks like one. I don't know that I buy him being so insistent they don't exist, or at least someone's not imitating them.
okay. Um, I mean, I think he's probably leaning more towards someone's just imitating them.
But he seems
Because
pretty steadfast that there is just no Court of Owls. They never existed.
I see him thinking that someone's imitating them, or it's just someone, trying to make the nursery rhyme a real thing.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I don't.
It didn't break anything for me. I was just like, you're a little too insistent on this. Uh,
Well, it
then
gets
we
kind
get
of
to
funny later.
I said that the assassination attempt was my favorite like action scene. We get to I think what is the best part of the book. Batman is captured and
Yes.
put in a giant maze.
Are we? Is there more in between? I'm trying to think. Just before
I'm
we
I'm
get to
just
the
going based on
maze
my
thing.
notes.
Yeah. I'm trying to jog my memory. No, I
I
think
think that's where he hits Dick. No, it can't be because he
yes.
doesn't find out about that until the maze.
Uh, yeah. No, that is after the maze. But yeah. I guess we can talk about this, which is issue 5 and 6. I think.
Yeah.
I honestly, I think the labyrinth sequence that issue is probably one of my favorite issues I've ever read of Batman. It's so good. And it is unfortunately where the story peaks for me.
This
uh
no, I think this is the peak of this story.
it's so good and it leans into a lot of some of the aspects that I love about Batman, which is the horror aspects and like the psychological aspects. You see Batman go insane in this story in this issue. Um, and you have that really creepy part where he sees his parents just as old people, and then they turn into owls. Like you got some really creepy body horror in this part.
No, it's really creepy and like you got, the body horror, psychological horror. I think this is the most I've ever seen comic book Batman driven really to that brink. Like these guys have an
Yeah.
effect on him, not just during the maze, but like even for the cup for like the issue after. Like he's still jumpy and paranoid.
When I think the closest I've seen to compare, what I was thinking of the Cult a lot because I read that fairly recently, and that's kind of a similar thing where Batman's kidnapped and tortured by an enemy. And then there's also Arkham Asylum, Serious House on Serious Earth. He kind of goes a little insane in that, but like this is maybe some of my favorite crazy Batman, where you just see like his ripped mask, and he's got that like his bloodshot eye coming out. We didn't mention Greg Capullo does the art obviously for this story, and he is one of my favorite Batman artists.
I would
And
put him in my top five.
I'd put him, yeah, maybe in my top three.
Oh
He's one of my favorites. This whole sequence is just like great for his art.
no,
The
yeah.
the part later where all the Court of Owls people are like climbing onto Bruce, and then he like he gets up and there's like a giant Batman for one panel. That's great.
No, it's great. This is also a great bat suit. I love Capullo's take on the bat suit.
Yes.
Very, back to basics. And then
Yeah,
that the
very good.
maze is where we get a little more information. I believe, like we mentioned, that's where he finds out, Grayson was supposed to be recruited. He finds out that this goes back to the beginnings of Gotham. Like they are seeped into the architecture of Gotham. The other
Hmm.
thing we didn't mention is they are immortal, or at least the Talons are. The only way to stop them is
Yes.
to freeze them. Um,
Yeah, they're basically undead super soldiers.
Missed opportunity to not have him just grab Mister Freeze's gun.
Yeah. Well, at least we didn't get Snyder's Mr. Freeze in this story.
And we get the most horrifying moment in the entire book in this maze, where he finds his parents,
Yes.
and then they start to like decay, like in his arms, and
Yeah.
then one of the Martha like what explodes or
Yeah, they're like owls climb out of their mouths and their heads basically just explode in blood, and it's terrifying.
yeah, no, it's
That's what
messed up.
I love it when Batman stories add like more horror elements, because it's not something I see a lot. Like there is inherently kind of a horror element to Batman, but they don't really play on it as much as I've seen in this story and a few others that I can think of off the top of my head.
And I know Gotham Knights does this maze, but it's nowhere near as cool as it is here.
Oh, they do? Oh, they shouldn't
Yeah,
have even tried.
they really shouldn't have. Um,
But yeah.
The other thing that makes this really cool, we should mention, Noah his version didn't work for him for some reason. But the
Yeah,
pages turn as Bruce's sanity, I guess, starts to like decline. It's
yeah,
not very good for reading it on a digital tablet, so count yourself blessed for that one, I guess.
yeah.
But I think it is a cool idea for the physical comics. Although I have to say, it does kind of make it annoying to read even physical because you're like, especially if you're reading like an omnibus form,
You
because
have
then you got
to
to turn this big
adjust.
ass book
Oh,
around.
oh God, yeah. I didn't even think about reading it in an omnibus. That's got to be a
Yeah,
pain. Yeah.
that can't be
But
fun.
yeah, yeah. My version, for whatever reason, didn't do that, and I was reading it like panel view, and I was just like, I could have sworn there's a part where you have to turn it upside down, because that blew my mind when I first read it as a kid. I was like, whoa, they're like they're making you just as disoriented as Batman is in this scene.
And then we get another kind of cool throwback to the original Batman is you get the original origin, you know, where the bat crashes through the window, and
Hmm.
he's like, "Yes, father, I shall become a bat."
And
And then an
then,
owl eats it
yeah, they
because
were there from
we
the
gotta keep
beginning.
hammering. We gotta keep hammering. Owls are the natural predators of bats.
I do like that as a visual, though.
No, it is a
I
cool
think
visual.
maybe you could have cut down saying that whole owls are predators of bats in the narration, but I
Yeah.
like that as a visual motif.
No, that's a great visual. That's the one I would actually keep more than any
Hmm.
of the others.
Just cut down
Uh,
some of the dialogue about it.
and then, at least for me, it is all downhill from here. Um,
Yeah,
the well, we do get the bitch slap of Dick Grayson, which was amazing.
which is
But
peak.
and
Yeah,
then the court break into his house, and he just has a
yeah.
giant mech suit for some reason. What is it with Snyder and mech suits? This he
He's a
gives
fan of that.
he gives Batman three different mech suits. I don't know if you know about this, but so he has this one, and then he'll have one in game to fight the Justice League after they've all been Jokerized. And then
Oh,
then he
okay,
had, yeah, no, that book, in game, just opens with the Justice League attacking Bruce, and they've all been
okay.
Jokerized.
That's funny.
And then obviously Blue Mech Gordon Batman.
Yeah, that's the other one I was thinking
Like, why
of.
is this such a mech Batman?
I don't. In theory, I don't really mind it. I think the whole siege of Wayne Manor is something I'd like on paper. Like it's a cool idea for it's just a good idea for like a action set piece. But I think especially after he had trouble fighting one Talon in the maze, like it just kind of feels like it's cheapened when he's going up against a bunch and winning.
Yeah,
I mean, you do see him struggle a little bit. It's not the full on like Bat God thing that I have a problem with, but it has that a little bit. Not as bad as some other things I've seen.
yeah, and the Secret Society should be a game of intrigue and politics, not. Well, now it's just a dumb
Yeah.
action movie.
Well, now let's just send out all of our soldiers to this one area.
Yeah. Well, no. So that's the
Well, I
thing.
guess they're across the city too.
Yeah, because all of the tie-in issues are the other parts of Gotham that they're attacking and all the sidekicks fighting them off.
Hmm.
But it's like this is the most uninteresting way you could have taken this.
Yeah.
Like what
Especially
if
after.
what if Batman used, you know, his influence as Bruce Wayne to bring the light into the court? Um
Yeah.
and then all you really need, we'll get to it in a second, is the reveal at the end that Lincoln March was one of them the whole time, and he becomes like the
Yeah. And
heavy
you
that
get that.
Bruce has to fight.
And you get that battle at the end. Yeah. That's all you could have. Yeah. That's all you really needed at the end. Um, I guess I'll mention this here too, but I think another big missed opportunity with this book is, Bruce. Bruce Wayne is probably friends
Is
with a lot of these
Batman.
Court of Owl. He's probably friends with a lot of the members of the Court of Owls because they're part of his like inner circle of rich people. So I don't know. I think we could have seen more into like the inner workings of the actual court and like Bruce's relationship to them. Uh, I think we did what little of a peek we do get into them is pretty interesting and pretty cool because back in the labyrinth part you have that creepy moment with the little girl that's like, yeah, I heard him more. um but I would have liked to seen more of the actual like politics of the Court of Owls. I don't know if you had that.
No, yeah, I mean that's kind of what I was going into is instead of a big dumb war on Gotham, like this should have all been played in the shadows and intrigue,
Yeah,
places that Batman lives and Bruce Wayne lives. I don't necessarily need them to be Bruce's friends, but it's like, oh, you were friends with my
yeah.
parents, and like they thought the world of you, but you're actually like part of this evil society. Although at the same time, are they evil? Like they kill a guy, but what?
uh
Well, no, hold on. So they kill a guy, right?
hmm
But what are their motives? Like, what do they want?
that's true. That's never really clear what their specific
Are
motives
they
are.
are they actually like
um I think,
before Batman picks a fight with them? Are they
yeah.
doing anything other than killing that one guy?
Well, they it's kept I mean it's just kept to they want to have control of the city, which sure, that's fine, but
But what
yeah,
kind of
it
control?
what kind of control? Yeah, I think it would have been really interesting to get into like the inner workings of like do they have like more politicians besides Lincoln March in their pocket? What areas of like crime are they controlling? Like they could have gotten into that a little bit
Are they
more.
even controlling crime? Because the
Yeah,
way that the
are they?
court is presented in this, without reading any of the spin-offs, I don't know if it's expanded there. I highly doubt it. They just seem like a bunch of rich old people that put on owl masks.
They probably got up to some weird parties, but I'm glad we didn't see that. um,
uh,
no, but
okay.
that is such a big missed opportunity with this book. But yeah.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. You could adapt this and like do it really well. Um,
Mhm.
I know there's a lot of comparisons to Morrison with Snyder, and there is a secret society in that book too. But that gets
Oh
a
yeah,
lot messier. Like there's a guy that
yeah.
may be Thomas Wayne. I don't remember how that plate pans out. I'd have to reread it.
I'd have to finally read that stuff, but yeah.
Is there anything else you want to mention before we get into the home stretch of this story and what might be the
Let's
lamest third act?
no, let's get into that.
So we find out that Bruce sees Lincoln is killed, except spoilers, he's not. He is actually a part of the Court of Owls. In fact, that's the other thing that's frustrating. Bruce doesn't have to do anything to take down the Court of Owls. Lincoln March does it himself.
Yeah, they're all wiped out off screen, which is
Yeah.
kind of lame.
So you find out that Lincoln may or may not be Thomas Wayne Jr. Has that ever
Yeah.
come up in any other continuity that I've never heard of this outside of this book?
No, so I assume that he's a new take on Owlman, which I don't know much about Owlman, from the Crime Syndicate, but most of my exposure to the Crime Syndicate is from other media, not comics. So, um, yeah, I think when I first read it, I was really disappointed because I thought that they were confirming that yes, this is Bruce's brother. I think by the end, it's left a lot more ambiguous, and
It
I
is,
think
but
it
in
might.
some ways that makes it worse.
Yeah, I mean, I'm more fine with that than Bruce had a secret brother all along. I think it by the time you get to the end, it plays much more into the idea that this was just an innocent kid taken from this orphanage, and brainwashed by the court. You know, raised to think that he's a Wayne and he deserves control over all of Wayne Industries and the stuff that Bruce controls.
I think that
Um,
is the preferable version.
mhm.
I think if you're gonna do something like that, you need to be definitive, especially
Yeah, it's
because spoilers,
yeah,
he's not coming back in the main Batman book. Um,
yeah.
he got a spinoff, or one of the Talons did. I don't know if you remember this, but they got
No.
a spinoff book.
Oh wow.
Let me see if who it was.
It would have
Um,
to be him, I imagine, because he's the only one left. um.
yeah, and his costume is atrocious. See if
Oh,
you,
once it loads. Oh my god.
yeah,
That looks a little
um,
bit more like Owlman.
a little bit. I just I don't know. Like I don't really want Bruce to have a sibling. We've overcomplicated his origin enough as it is, especially because in later Batman stuff like that Batman Eternal, like Hush comes back. It's like how does that fit in with the 5 years? Like, did he have this friend as a kid? Still,
Yeah.
just leave the twist out.
Yeah.
Just here's what you do, right? He was a kid that was taken off the streets or off the hospital, right? And they made him believe he's the real Bruce Wayne,
Mm.
and that the guy playing saying he's Bruce Wayne is an imposter, and it's a battle for the title of Bruce Wayne as a metaphor of sorts for the battle of for the soul of Gotham. Um,
Yeah. No, because as it is, it just feels like a really tacked on twist. Um, I'm fine. Like I said before, I actually like that it's more ambiguous, and I like that it's more leaning towards he was brainwashed by the court and he's not an actual brother. But it just feels I'm not sure what like how necessary it is to tie in Owlman into all of this. I'm interested enough in the actual court itself. I didn't really need Owlman to be a big part of it. And I didn't it just feels like a really inorganic twist.
yeah, no, it's very odd.
Yeah. But
Oh, I
I
guess
don't
he
know.
does come back during like Robin War and shit.
Oh, okay. I
Weird.
don't know. I think maybe it could have worked, but it just you just had to weave it into the story better. Um, uh, but I mean, yeah, that is. I'd say the second half of this book is still the weakest part. Court of Owls itself is the strongest part, especially with the labyrinth section. But I didn't hate reading City of Owls as much as I thought I would on this reading.
Good. Well, Noah, do you have anything else that we should talk about before we move into final thoughts?
No, I think I'm ready to give my final thoughts.
Okay. So my final thoughts. I think City Court of Owls is a perfect story for a reboot, semi reboot, soft reboot, whatever you consider to be 52. I think City of Owls needs some major rewrites for me personally.
Mhm.
But Snyder's the way Snyder writes, you have to kind of read all of it. So I would recommend this book absolutely. But it does have its flaws, which you should be aware of before purchasing. But overall, I had a good time. I love Capullo's art. I really like Snyder's characterization of Batman. I think that's a very strong characterization, even though I have a couple of questions here and there. But I really liked it.
Yeah, and right after that, I'll just say this is absolutely a recommendation. Um, this goes into that category of Batman comics where I probably don't even have to recommend, like you've probably already read it by now. But yeah, no, it's a great story. To echo a lot of what John just said, the first half is way better, especially with the labyrinth section showing off Capullo's art and just like seeing Batman uh, delve into deeper insanity. It's just such a great issue. Uh,
Yeah.
I would have liked to seen, like we just said, a little bit more of the court getting fleshed out. I want to see more of the like inner workings of that society. I like that it's kept as a mystery because it is a very creepy mystery at the beginning, but I think once you get to like the labyrinth stuff, I want to see more of like the inner workings of them. Um, but no, overall, it's a great read. Falters a little bit at the end, but I'd absolutely recommend it. Uh, yeah,
Hell yeah. All right, everybody. That is going to be it for us tonight. That was Court of Owls. We'll be back soon with another comic review. Until then, have a good night, everybody.
have a good night.
Don't forget to hit like and subscribe.